everybody, I'm Elise, and I know that the primaries are over and that the Democratic Party has chosen its nominee. And although we can't change the results of what happened with Bernie, no matter who you support, if you actually care about democracy rather than just a candidate, then we all deserve to align with Bernie Sanders in demanding that radical changes be made to the Democratic Party. If the Democratic Party wants to win in November, then it needs to accommodate a more progressive agenda. We deserve to welcome new people into the political process rather than implicitly telling them that their voices just don't matter. But if the party chooses to do otherwise, which is precisely what it has shown, then Bernie Sanders and his supporters don't owe you anything. Because you know what's bullshit? How fundamentally undemocratic the Democratic nomination process has become. Because the truth is that throughout the nomination process, the system has been consistently and unfairly stacked in favor of Hillary Clinton from the very beginning. And if you care about democracy, then process matters. And the process that made it possible for Hillary Clinton to clinch the nomination has been anything but fair, anything but just, anything but democratic.
The Clinton campaign and the DNC, perhaps more in conclusion than we've seen publicly, but clearly to some extent have not had rules that were fair. Yeah. It has to be a democratic system.
Yeah,
small
they're
d,
trying to
and
stand up for...
The Democratic National Committee is supposed to be a neutral arbiter in the nomination process.
It's pretty clear that you're favoring Hillary Clinton. What do you want to say to Bernie Sanders supporters?
There's just no shred of evidence to suggest that I'm favoring Hillary Clinton.
But basic common sense and recently leaked documents have shown that the DNC has been anything but neutral, and instead was working behind the scenes against Bernie.
Debbie Wasserman Schultz has been on this show and others, been very defensive of the debate schedule, for example, defending the superdelegate system, defending the closed primaries. Do you believe, in all your reporting, that the DNC has been fair to Bernie Sanders in this process?
I don't think so. From having followed the campaign, there are a number of examples. The scheduling of the televised debates during times that aren't likely to draw big audiences, freezing his access to that key voter database before the Iowa and New Hampshire caucus and primary, characterizing it as a theft of data when really that isn't what happened. Those are things that set the tone early, and then you had this joint fundraising committee between the DNC and the Clinton campaign. That's something that Sanders saw as very unfair, and so does his supporters. So I think there are a number of data points that the Sanders folks can point to quite convincingly, and that's what Jeff Weaver said, the campaign manager on TV last week on MSNBC. He says for personal reasons, she's against the Sanders campaign, and that's why she's become such a divisive figure in the party, and that's a problem when you're trying to unify people ahead of Philadelphia.
In fact, two internal memos dating back from over a year ago, before Hillary even launched her campaign, outlined official DNC strategies to promote Hillary in the press, and even detail how they would prepare her for the nomination. They had decided she won before anybody else decided she won. This collusion between the Democratic Party, Hillary's campaign, and the media kind of explains a lot of things. First, please explain to me how somebody can start a race with a 520 delegate lead before anybody even voted. Because that's exactly what happened with Hillary when 520 of the 713 superdelegates supported her run the minute that she kicked off her campaign a year ago.
The Democrats rigged the system from the very start before the first vote is counted with superdelegates, where you're saying we do not trust the people.
And the debate. And we don't take Bernie seriously.
We do not trust the will of the people. Yeah. So we're going to have our most powerful party insiders get a vote and be superdelegates so they can be a counterbalance against those ruffians that actually are going out and voting for people like Bernie Sanders.
Hillary Clinton lost to Bernie Sanders in New Hampshire by 22 percentage points, the biggest victory in a contested Democratic primary there since John F. Kennedy. But it looks as though Clinton and Sanders are leaving the granite state with the same number of delegates in their pockets because Clinton has the support of New Hampshire's superdelegates, these party insiders. What do you tell voters who are new to the process who says this makes them feel like it's all rigged?
Unpledged delegates exist really to make sure that party leaders and elected officials don't have to be in a position where they are running against grassroots activists.
And even though the media knows that superdelegates only vote on July 25th at the Democratic National Convention, they treated that as a little detail to be ignored.
You guys, and I mean CNN and all of the establishment press, totally tilted the playing field here from day one by counting those superdelegates, when in fact you know the superdelegates do switch their votes all the time. They switched it in 2008. Hillary Clinton had a 100 superdelegate lead, which completely vanished in 2008. So
was the
why
media
did you
wrong
count
in
them from
2008?
day one, which was absolutely incorrect? It was in fact journalistic malpractice. Why did you guys do that?
So you're saying more information is not a good thing. We should hide people from the reality of what the superdelegates are thinking?
No. Brian, this is very important. If you say, hey, superdelegates are likely to vote this way, or they say they're voting this way, as an aside, that's perfectly fair. But if you count them in the official tally when you know they can and often do switch their votes and have not voted yet, that is simply incorrect. That is not a fact. That is the opposite of a fact. It's just the establishment told us from day one the superdelegates have already voted when they did not, and you tell us today to, hey, make sure you go away and you support the establishment candidate.
And this ostensible lead simply perpetuated the mythical narrative that Sanders simply could not win, which was repeated in news outlet after news outlet by the very same superdelegates that are portrayed in national media as if they were neutral pundits when asked about their thoughts on the primary race. And this trend of duplicity continued until the very end, when the Associated Press declared the race for Clinton based on the results of a secret survey of corporate-funded political insiders rather than votes cast. You know what that's called? That is subverting democracy and masking it as journalism, rather than what it was, a deliberate attempt at headline grabbing and old school voter suppression.
It's highly inappropriate for this news agency to try to announce and determine the outcome of elections that have yet to happen. If you tell someone the election's over, then people don't think that they should go and vote.
I mean, regardless of the outcome of the June 7th primary election, you gotta concede that that was some bullshit right there. And it doesn't stop there, my friends, because I haven't even mentioned other process issues, such as massive voting irregularities, where 11 states have documented some type of election fraud in their primaries or caucuses. I'm talking about everything from suspicious exit poll deviations, where there were huge discrepancies consistently between the polls taken in advance and the actual outcome of the elections. So much so that this became the rule rather than the exception in the primary race like it was for the Republicans. I'm talking about allegations of voter purges. And if you think that this is all some kind of mad conspiracy, then just talk to one of the voters in Brooklyn who were magically removed from the voting rolls. Or to one of the 91,000 voters in New York that filed affidavits that were thrown away. Or to one of 20,000 people in Maricopa County, Arizona, that voted with provisional ballots that were never counted. Or to voters in 10 different precincts in Iowa whose ballots disappeared.
Iowa. I remember as they were still counting votes in the early morning after the first contest, the caucus contest, the Democratic Party of Iowa rushes out, declares Hillary the winner well before they were ready to do it. And that was the first sign. And most journalists I talked to have said this on the air, said Bernie probably won that. But we'll never know because the Democratic Party rigged it.
Or to election board officials in Chicago that said that the votes just didn't add up. Or to one of 64 Bernie delegates in the Nevada convention who were said to have been disallowed to enter the building and vote. Now I'm gonna stop here because I could go on and on and on, and this video would be a lot longer than it already is. But this is not a conspiracy, folks. It's actually all public information that is widely available. When we turn off the Clinton News Network and we throw away the New Clinton Times and investigate what happened in the primary process via independent sources, what it reveals is a democratic machine that is every bit as corrupt as in the 1900s when party bosses ruled with an iron fist. No matter who you support and regardless of the outcome of this race, we should all get behind the idea that all votes deserve to be accounted for. Now, before I conclude, I want to clear one thing up. I'm not saying that had these irregularities not occurred, that Bernie would have somehow unequivocally won. Maybe Hillary would have still been the nominee regardless. But here's the thing, we'll never really know. We'll never really know if she would have won had all the people that wanted to vote in the primaries were actually able to vote. I mean, who knows, right? Even if the process had been fair and impartial, it would have resulted in the same outcome. But again, we'll never really know. And that, my friends, is bad news for democracy. It's also one of the many reasons why so many Bernie Sanders supporters are a little bit upset and have called the process rigged and have refused to stand behind the Democratic Party and its chosen candidate. As Green Party presidential candidate Jill Stein perfectly put it, you can't start a revolution in a counter-revolutionary party that for over 2 decades, ever since Bill Clinton took office, created campaigns that fake left while it moves to the right and becomes more corporatist, more militarist, and more imperialist. Yeah, we can do better. None of us want Trump, but as it stands, the current Democratic Party and this entire nomination process is just full of a lot of bullshit. All right, everybody, I'm Elise. Thanks so much for tuning in. If you agree with this video and you want to relay the message, please share it if you think it's important. Like my page, subscribe on YouTube. I'll be coming out with videos more often, and I'll see you next time. Mwah, beijo. Ciao.